I would probably say, yes, sir, sir. I will go right ahead. It's my boss's boss's boss, so yes, I would probably do it. My answer is not a platform answer. My answer is, I believe aviation is a worldwide dream that is shared by anyone, anywhere, doesn't matter what the borders are, or age, or whatnot. And I'm very focused on bringing flight simulation to everyone. And so hardware is not really first and foremost on my mind. I think about the continent of Africa with 1 billion people, 60-70% of which are under 30. And I see how many play flight sim, and it's not very many. And I keep looking at that map. I'm like, what do I need to do in order to at least expose them to our beautiful hobby? And that is how I think about this. And I will fly to Africa next year, and I'm already talking to some governments about STEM programs and seeding this in schools, because this is something that needs to be brought to them, I think. It's not going to be accidental. So that is how I think about audiences and audience expansion. There's a whole planet full of people, and you're not anywhere near reaching all of them.
From the get-go, we wanted to have the most realistic possible simulation, and every time we sort of did an assessment of where we were, we said, okay, what is missing? Why is it not perfect? What do we need to improve? And every time we added a new system. Mm-hmm. That's why we are now at 4 different systems. One thing I didn't even talk about during the presentation, on 2024 we have developed a new process for aircraft realism. So we now have instruments. You know, for example, we have accelerometers, machines that measure forces. We put on the yokes. We measure airspeed outside, and so we get the planes or rent them or find them and fly them and do measures. And we have developed a tool set to do the same type of measures in the sim. That's in the SDK. People can use it for plane makers, third parties. And so we basically did this with our fleet. And so we now have not only pilot feedback, test pilot feedback, manufacturer feedback, but we have actually measures and data which allow us to say how realistic we are on planes. And so the 2020 fleet, we improved. So maybe some of you have noticed differences in the 2024 aircraft, because basically we did this, and what we found is that 2020 planes were actually not that bad, but there was a few flaws. You know, so we even have a scoring system where 2020 planes would have 80%, 70%, sometimes 85%, but there was always a little bit of a one step more to do. And so we did this, we improved, we did measures, we went back, we flew again, until it was better, and now the 2024 aircraft will be 95%, 98%. So can you go to 100? So what we found is that's difficult, because maybe the accuracy of the instruments, even between 2 flights, there is 2 or 3% difference between 2 aircraft. It's not going to be exactly the same. You know, they're all older version, different. So maybe very new. I'm pretty sure when you see, did you fly the Vision Jet? Maybe one of you?
No.
You did the helicopter?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
But I flew the Vision Jet. I had a chance yesterday. So these aircraft are so slick, so almost perfect. Maybe these are really like perfect twins. But many of the older, like Cessna 172s, they're all a little bit different from each other. But we now get very, very close to reality. So we have this new I would say, maybe scientific approach now, in combination with still pilots, test pilots. So there's a subjective sort of impression, but also now facts and data. And so we can say, and you've probably experienced, we're one step closer to the real aircraft now.
I mean, it is probably the #1 request from core simmers. Of course, it is what we do. Is fly planes. I mean, what was clear is that the ground handling wasn't awesome, and that had a lot to do with the ground. So you can fake it, or you can do the ground better, and we did that. So the whole physics system is now much more appropriate to the ground physics being, the ground itself being much more detailed. On the flight side, I don't know if you talk to anybody, we actually ended up recording a whole bunch of planes. So the team set up their own equipment, put the equipment on board, get the telemetry, do a bunch of maneuvers, put those maneuvers and the telemetry output into the sim, and then try to tweak the sim to the degree that it's congruent. That went on for a long time. And they didn't do it for every plane, but because we can't get access to every plane, but they did it for a whole bunch of planes. So the planes should feel, there was a plan once to show it. Like here's the real world data, guys, and here's the actual data that we have, and it's the same. So maybe that could end I think it's an endless debate, frankly, but that was sort of an idea. Show the wind tunnel and show the behavior and just show everybody that it actually does exactly what it's supposed to do. We hear that from the manufacturers all the time, that they say, we have it with our test pilots, the test pilots say it's perfect. And I'm sitting there like, awesome, that should be good enough, right? But no, there's people that think the test pilots don't know what they're doing. It's like, okay, cool. But yeah, I think we've taken some steps. I would say, is it perfect now? I don't think it's ever going to be really perfect, but it's better.
Yeah, this really came from this scientific approach on measuring. When you do the measures on real aircraft, it allows you to measure how the aircraft will respond to movements or to turbulences, etc. And we improve the realism of some areas where you don't easily get the data. You know, for example, what is the moment of inertia of the aircraft? What are it's easy to compute drag on an aircraft because you have the engine power. The drag, if you don't accelerate, is pretty much the same. But what is the drag when the aircraft does this? You know, when you skid or when you go ooh, or when there's a bump and it goes ooh, what is this drag? And with all the instruments we now put on the aircraft to do measures, we have sort of curves, drawings, which we can, which basically are dependent on these factors. And when you do that in the sim, you have if it's for example 2 times longer, you say, oh, you know, if the real airplane does like zhoo, and in the sim it does ooh, it's slower, then something is wrong, right? And then you go in, you fix it until you have exactly the same behavior. And so I think it's this approach which made the aircraft more lively. It's just that these parts, which are much more difficult to get as data or measures, are now realistic because of this process. Someone just, I think it was yesterday, flew up in the Grand Canyon. You know, there is and I was running this morning, right? There was a lot of wind, and when you get really close to the border, you feel the hot air coming up. It's like a hairdryer, you know. and so I saw someone yesterday who crashed because he flew up to the rim, but way too low and slow. And when he touched the plane, really went whoop. Like this. So this is not a wind. I mean, I don't know if it could be called wind shear, but it's the same phenomenon, right? It's a wind which for a moment goes into one direction and then into the other. And this is already simulated with a force system. You know, the atmospheric draft and turbulence and winds. It's something in the future we're thinking of improving. So the next step is to put computational fluid dynamics onto the whole atmosphere around the plane. So we have a prototype of that. Currently, we already have, you know, a field is hot, it goes up. This is all simulated. What we don't have is, if we added this simulation, we would have like 2 fields which would merge together, and it would actually naturally go up and back down and stuff like this. This would even create more shear. We already have some, but the next step really is to add computational fluid dynamics on the 50 kilometers around the aircraft. But that's something we're considering. It's not going to be for 24 launch, but pretty soon after. You still have wind shear and turbulences, and I mean a lot of people complain that there's too much. We have a slider to tune it down. You know, the live weather has a lot more now because the clouds and the weather we get from the live weather service is decoded in a better way. And the turbulences are a lot more stronger on days where they're stronger. Like today, I've seen there's like 38 mile per hour gusts today on the runway. So.
Yeah, we talk about it ever so often. Like it came up with other marketplaces. We're obviously friendly colleagues of a lot of these people who have marketplaces, and iBuild or Just Flight or whoever. The DRM thing is tricky in that, like, I would say, have we really resolved it? Not really. And like there are people that are very proactive in hacking stuff, and they do hack stuff. And it's just, there's no ultimate hack protection. That doesn't exist. It's a back and forth, you know. It's like a ping pong match, bing, bing, bing. And I would say right now, you know, you can probably find some of the Microsoft first party planes that are in the marketplace elsewhere, even though we don't ship them anywhere else. And that tells you everything about everything. So it's, I would say our priority is not that. Is it something we never will consider in the future? We might consider it. It's just not something we've been really focused on. I'm most excited for the career system, simply because it's something completely new. And I don't mean, look, I've made games 30 years. There's never been anything like this before. And the reason why I like it is because one of our principles going into it was, well, the core simmers are used to free flight. And we know for a fact you can't tell core simmers what to do. Right? Otherwise they'll get mad at you and they was, yeah. So, and because I was like sitting there, I read the feedback and people said, hey, after the tutorials I'm falling into a gap, I don't know what to do. And a lot of people left because they didn't know what to do. So then there was one path which was like, okay, should we make a few hundred more tutorials? And ultimately, I think where we landed is better, because I think learning by doing is the right way, right? You learn by repetition. Like if I have vague memories of being in school and listening to some math professors, and like, I learned it, reproduced what I learned in a test, and I forgot it all again. This is my current state. So is that great learning? No. And then there's the stuff I do every day, and I do retain that because I need it. So the fact that we have the career structured, that I can basically opt into whatever the heck I want to do, get whatever specification I want to do, whatever certificates I want to get, I already made choices for myself. And then if the thing forces me to really actually prove that I know what I'm doing in a natural way, then it's very much like life. Because that's what life is. You make choices, you want to go do this, well, you probably need some skills. Okay, cool. Get yourself those skills and then you're good at it. And I think there is a real hope I have that the people engaging with the career will become better pilots. Not just digital pilots, better pilots, because you actually have to understand what the hell to do. Instead of saying, oh, I want to do a firefighter. Let me get a firefighter plane real quick and I'll just dump some water and it's going to be great. You don't know anything about this, you know. So we talked to the Central European Firefighting Organization, right? So the Sécurité Civile they're called, and they explained to us fire propagation and how the heck to actually do fire lines and all this stuff, and that's better. You learn it, and then you're actually going to have some proficiency. Remember, like Sims are all about getting better at something, really understanding the systems, really diving deep. That is what this does. That is why I think I'm so proud of it, because it's not a game. It's not some random more tutorials glued on some stuff that you will quickly forget right after. I think you're gonna organically earn your career, and I think it's never been done that I know of, and I think it's a great experiment, but I have high hopes that it will be something else, something that really takes us forward.
I know a lot of people were asking for historical weather. Mm-hmm. We now have 24 hours. You know, it's not back to 1900, but the most important thing is if you only fly in the evening, you sometimes would like to test the afternoon, or if you missed a weather event on TV and you can go back, or maybe also I want to train this afternoon at 3, once, twice, 3. I can always go back. And you in the sim, you can now do live weather, everything live, and then you can change the time, and it stays live because it does live from 5 hours ago.